Hello, welcome to the Lofty Entrepreneur Podcast. I am Tanisha Coffey, aka the Lofty Entrepreneur, and thank you so much for joining me. As always, we are providing the best tips, tools, advice, and inspiration for aspiring and new entrepreneurs here. So if you haven't already done so, click now to subscribe so don't miss a thing. Now, on today's show, we have startup business consultant Vanessa Zamy. She went from being a six-figure corporate 9 to 5er to entrepreneur, and she is not looking back. Vanessa is the founder of Your Vision Catalyst, where she works with high achieving corporate employees, helping them to transition to entrepreneurship. She's also the creator of Hustle and Breathe Business Accelerator, a public speaker, and the author of Finish the Solopreneur's Guide to Getting Stuff Done. Now, she's been featured in Fast Company, NPR Marketplace, and was listed in the Women in Business Club's 2021 Women to Watch list. And today, I'm honored to have her here with us on the Lofty Entrepreneur Show. Vanessa, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Such a great intro. Hello.
Hello. That is like an amazing list of accomplishments, and you're just really kind of like getting started, really like pushing yourself on this entrepreneurship thing, a couple years in. So I want to know what in the world could have possibly made you want to leave your cushy six-figure job to start this whole crazy journey called entrepreneurship. You got to tell me.
Well, so essentially, I actually started my business while I was doing my cushy job. And because, it's cushy financially, not cushy culturally.
Yes.
Anyways, with that being said, so I started out my journey, started my business while doing my day job. And that came from just being sick and tired of like playing the chess game corporate. And I clearly was like, doing good in the game. But it was still one of those games I was like, I think I'm done with the game. But I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and from there, essentially that opened my eyes to just how accessible entrepreneurship was. And so, because I didn't grow up with a business owner family or no. So essentially my introduction to really just how accessible entrepreneurship was through reading the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And a couple months later, I then woke up with the idea for my company, Your Vision's Catalyst, through which I consult corporate professionals on how to also make that transition into full-time entrepreneurship. And so I was growing the business while doing my day job and all the things. And I've since, left that day job. And that just came from also like just time and confidence in the strategy and what I was doing and the business model I was doing to also help it grow, and also just confidence in my clients as well. And just my clarity as well too around my business and just the mission that I wanted and the confidence in that this was the way, right? It was sort of there's a point in the employee to employer mindset shift. Right. Where you like to make a mental shift and a physical shift. The mental shift is when you realize, based on what you want to accomplish, the employee lifestyle is not going to be the way for you to do that. And that was essentially I had to numerically calculate that, one, but then two.
You always got to do those numbers. You have to do those.
Yeah, exactly, right. And then from there, it became, then, that's when the business started. But then, was then a couple months later, I was like, wait a second. Because then you enter the entrepreneurship world. You meet other entrepreneurs. I was also at the same time entering like the real estate investment world, meeting other investors. And I was like, ooh, this is an interesting world. I see.
A lot of things.
And then,
yeah.
Yes. And then from there, essentially, it was just like a natural, okay, yeah. So forget the, becoming, because I was on the path I was on, and my goal essentially was like, I'm gonna be CEO, Fortune 500 company, right? But a Fortune 500 company meaning an existing like company. And then it became, or I'd be a CEO of Fortune 500 company that's my own company. Ooh,
yeah.
And it doesn't even matter. It doesn't have to be on the Fortune 500 list. It's just on my list, and it's just my own empire. Ooh, et cetera. But essentially, that was sort of the shift there. And then a physical shift just came when I was just, at some point I was like, yeah, I'm done. Alrighty. Put in my note. I gave him 1 month notice, actually. I gave him 1 month notice. I was like, it's my 1 month notice.
I'm done.
And that was pretty much it. It was just a calm transition after that. I was just like, all right, cool.
So I know that in your business today, you work with women who are essentially in the same position that you were in. And so I'm quite certain there becomes to be a theme about some of the challenges that people are facing
Yeah.
when they're working in corporate or, any day job. Doesn't have to be corporate, but any day job for someone else. And then they want to transition in whole or in part into entrepreneurship. So, what are some of the challenges that you hear a lot from people? And then I'm going to follow up with after those challenges. I kind of want, just know what those excuses are, um, and then how you're helping people to move past them.
Yes, yes. You might have to remind me of one of those questions if I don't
I
get to
will,
it.
no
But
worries.
essentially, yeah. So what I'll start with is the two biggest myths that people are essentially running their lives by, which then also relate to what's essentially also a challenge for them. One is the idea that they have to like burn the midnight oil and be up until 2 a.m. and then wake up at 4 and repeat the cycle again and only live on 2 hours of sleep and like coffee and blah blah blah. That's the one of the myths, misconceptions that essentially then lead to a lot of burnout, stress, overwhelm, time management just gone awry, essentially, and people just being busy and not productive. So that's one of the challenges. And then the other myth as well is that also relates to another challenge that happens with the clients that I see that are corporate, and that's the same thing. I also had myself, and then but also what I see with my clients as well. And it's great to also still be in the space because I can like remember. Oh yeah, I remember I was there. But essentially another myth is that you have to like burn all the ships and like go all loud and just quit the job. You have the idea, just quit the job. It's all going to work out the next day, etc.
Right.
And so that whole idea of that whole sort of gloriness of homelessness that gets toted around, especially because at the time I was in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley area, and that was just like it's kind of just toted around like, yeah, you just gotta burn the bridges, go homeless, eat ramen, blah blah blah, etc. Struggle.
Right.
And that is another thing as well that I see, as well, a big misconception and myth. And the way that then relates to the clients that I see as well is that what happens is because of that, there's this whole, and it all relates to time as well, where there's that whole, oh man, if I just quit my job, I'd have so much more time. If I just quit my job, I'd have so much more time. It's all right if I won't have any money. It's okay. I'll just have so much more time, etc. And so there's that whole perception of, you need to you need to not have the day job in order to make the business work. You need to burn everything down in order to have that business work, right? And the fact of the matter is that there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there, including Damon John, Sarah Blakely, Mark Cuban, who they built up their hustle and their business, and it started while doing their day job, while doing some sort of job of some sort, right? And it wasn't just burn all the bridges and go all out, etc., right? But it was burn all the bridges in different ways, so to speak. But essentially those are the two big challenges I see. It's all centered around time, but it's specifically just around, I don't have enough time, I can't make it work. I need to stay up until 2 a.m. to make things happen, to burn the midnight oil. Otherwise, I'm not working hard enough. If I don't do that, I'm not working hard enough. Who am I? And part of that is also then rooted in, some corporate thinking too, in terms of the same ideology that is done in the day job, staying late after work, all that jazz. But the same way that, someone's probably listening to this and maybe you've done the stay late at work. You've done the, come in early at work and you still in the same position. Right. Because you realize that it's not just about that, right? And so the same thing works in entrepreneurship as well, where it's not the person who works the longest hours. It's the person who works the most effective in the hour that they have. Right. Because you can grow a business in 2 hours a week, you can grow a business in 10 hours a week. It's just the person growing their business in 10 hours a week could be just, if anything, just as less productive as you are with your 2 hours a week and not really move forward, right? And I remember even when I was growing my business and I was putting my content out there and getting the features and all that other jazz. And I have full-time entrepreneurs coming to me, Vanessa, how do you do it? How do you put up this content? Full-time people, nothing but this business. And they still wondering, how do you do this? What do you find the time? Right. And so it's because it's not about essentially the amount of time you have. We all just have the same amount of time. It's about what you're doing in that amount of time. It's about how you're using that time as the most effective and efficient as you can in order to get done what it is that you need to get done. And
so I want to jump in right here because I think that that's really important. There are people who do just jump into entrepreneurship and they don't kind of, plan it out, do the numbers and say, okay, what's realistic for me? I think when you are working in another job and you have the ability to take that time to plan, I think that that's what you should be doing. I definitely am not that proponent who says you just gotta, as you were saying, burn the bridges and just go for it. And, well, I do believe you have to go for it, but I don't believe that you have to stop doing the thing that you were doing, meaning that particular job you're working, and do it, because realistically that's not the smartest thing. Most people don't
Yeah.
have a ton of money saved up where they can just live independently.
Mhm, mhm.
That's my
And
son.
the thing is that I also get a lot of mothers as well. No, it's okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
I also get a lot of
like
mothers as clients as well. And the thing is like, it's not just about you. Like you got other mouths to feed. You can't like,
exactly.
it's not just oh, this business is not making money. Let me just like, so even if you live off savings, that may not even last you long, right? And then I have people who say, but I have savings, Vanessa. Like, and it's like, but you don't even know how much savings you need. Hello. How's it going? We were just talking about you. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, so I mean, so this is real life mompreneur right here. Okay, so this is part of my life. This is some of the behind the scenes of how it goes down. As you saw, 2 out of 3, they were all 3 you just did here. And but that's the thing. There are so many different excuses and things that reasons. I won't call them excuses. I'll be gentle, unless I'm really coaching you, and then I'm gonna be, we're gonna be hard, and we're gonna call it what it is. But there are reasons that you could constantly give
Mhm.
um, for not doing whatever the thing is that you want to do. And for people who are in the corporate space, yes, they do have those crazy hours. And then especially corporate, because you're working a salary. So they can say, no, we're not clocking you by the hours. We're clocking you by, the work that you get done. This stack
Yeah.
of work needs to be completed. So if you got to stay longer, if you got to get here early, yeah, that mentality is kind of bred. You just have to keep going until you just get it done, because that's what's there. Versus, when you're an entrepreneur, you still have that same mentality. And realistically, some people need to have that mentality, because some people will go too easy. They'll be like, I'm gonna go ahead and make these phone calls today. And it takes them all of 10 minutes. And they're like, oh yeah, I work today. No, it's
Those
still,
people need accountability. Yes.
yeah, you still have to put in that work, but you do have to find that balance. You don't have to think that because you're, like you said, because you're not working, 23 hours of the day on your business, that you're not still doing
Right.
what needs to be
Yeah.
done. It's all about, what revenue producing activities are you doing? What are you doing that are you planning your day? When you do plan a certain time, certain activities, are you putting some time limits on them? So, it kind of forces you to say, okay, I got this time to get this done. Are you willing to take imperfect action? Because sometimes I think that's something that stalls people too. They'll sit up and they'll say, well, it's not ready yet. I need to, they stay in that place. They almost get stuck, and that also keeps them from moving forward.
Yeah.
So
And the thing is that all those things you said also apply to the corporate life as well. And so it's one of those things where like the things I'm doing as an entrepreneur with the same way I was living my life as a corporate person, which is why I was unable to, then make the transition. But it's the same thing where it's like, okay, what amount of time you have? You have maybe 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., whatever it may be, get that done. Like I left my day job at some point in time. I literally was like, 4:30 p.m. shuttle. I'm on that 4:30 p.m. shuttle. That laptop will stay in the office. This was pre-COVID. So I was on the 4:30 p.m. shuttle, and I was on the laptop will stay in the office, right? And I was still promoted. I still got a raise. I got a bonus reward, even outside of that period, right? Because it was about getting the
right,
work done, but one, effectively managing up. And as an entrepreneur, you're managing up yourself essentially, but also getting the work done and assigning yourself to understand how much work you can get done in an amount of time, and then being graceful with yourself, right? Just having that forgiveness and grace when things happen, because life just happens. You can only control what you can
right,
control. Everything
right,
else, well, you know,
right.
it just happens.
All right. So walk me through your process. Someone comes to you, she's, say, an
Mhm.
attorney. She's working, she's a corporate attorney, corporate at counsel. And, she's burning the midnight oil. She's, doing all these hours. She's exhausted. She doesn't see her children very much, and she needs to stay in that position because maybe she's the breadwinner of the household. We're still feeling the effects of the pandemic, right? But she's not happy. the family's not happy, because, if mama's
Mhm.
not happy, nobody's really happy, you know?
Yeah.
So what advice are you giving her? How are you helping her to move to that place? Because there is that mindset shift that has to happen to say, it's okay for me to let go of what I'm doing now that's not
Mhm.
working for me. And how do you help them to kind of make that shift, to just even open their eyes and say, it's okay. It's
Mhm.
okay. You don't have to keep putting yourself through this.
Yes, one of my main three, I have three time principles I go through with people. The one time principle that essentially relates to that is you need to be selfish. That's the time for that I tell people. You need to be selfish. And I have all spiel. Sometimes it's 5 minute spiel, sometimes it's 30 minute spiel. But essentially it's around the concept of you need to be selfish. And the idea behind that is you need to be selfish. And it's for everyone. And the idea is that, and what I always tell people is, okay, you have your business, right? So this attorney has an attorney. She's also a mother of household. She also has this business that she's looking to grow. So why is she growing this business? Typically, my clients are growing their business to leave a lasting legacy for their kids, right? Create generational wealth, have more time for their family, right? Be happy, essentially, right? And have that their business that they started was a way for them to become more fulfilled. And so they're looking to be happy. I like to say I'm in the business of happiness, because I help people essentially keep moving forward in their vision so they can keep being happy, so they can then spread that joy with everyone else around them. Otherwise, it's just misery. But essentially, with that being said, right, that person, that attorney, that mother, right, who's killing the game at work, or but also killing herself in the process,
Right.
it's you need to be selfish, right? And the way that I help people, because people are like, oh, selfish, I don't know, oh, I don't be selfish,
It has such the
right?
negative
And
connotation, but
yes,
it's necessary sometimes.
it is exactly right. Such a negative, but it's necessary. And the way that I help people navigate around that connotation is the idea that you are the core of your business, right? And you are the core of your life. But for entrepreneurs, it's like you are the core of your business. You are the core of this mission, the vision that you're working on. So if you don't show up, no one else is going to show up, right? And I think I always give the example of a cafe owner. Okay, let's say this cafe owner, they own a cafe, it's a nice street, nice and popping. Okay, things are going well, okay, cool. And then one day they decide, oh, I don't feel like waking up to my alarm. I'm just gonna stay home today. Okay. And then meanwhile, at the cafe, the door's closed, the sign is closed, but someone walks up to the cafe. They see the time, it says, well, it should be open. Hmm. Well, I guess it's closed. All right. Well, on to Starbucks, on to Phil's, on to Pete's across the street. And the idea is that it's no one else is going to open the door for you, right? Like no one is going to open up your cafe door for you other than yourself. And at the end of the day, and let's say you have a team of people. Let's say you're like, well, Vanessa, I had some managers, etc. Right? Well, if you're being this lazy, guess what's going to happen? Those managers are also going to be lazy too, right? If you have a team of people, you also need to show up for that team of people as well. And so, and the thing is, that's what I tell people. It's like you are the core of your business. And if you don't show up, no one else will. And so you need to ensure that you are making sure that you are showing up to the best of your ability, because you are no use. You are no use to anyone in the hospital. You are no good to anyone, crashed on the road because you fell asleep at the wheel. You are no good to anyone, like like you're just no good to anyone when you're not good.
Right.
So keep
Right.
yourself together, essentially.
And that's a message that I think a lot of people need to hear. A lot of people, yeah, not just entrepreneurs, but people in general, especially entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs, because we are caregivers, most of us, by nature. So if it's not a husband, if it's not children, it might be a parent, it might be a
Yeah.
cousin, it might be a sibling. We find all these other people to take care of. We find all these other people to take care of, and then we put ourselves second or third or fourth or fifth, and then the next thing you know, you've kind of lost yourself in
Yes.
all of that. And so yeah, that's number one. You can't you're the whole point of most people growing the business or working that particular 9 to 5 is because there's some other life goal that they want. Nobody wakes up and says, oh, I just want to go to work every day, 5 days a week for 40 plus hours and get X amount of money. And that's all I want to do in life. No, everybody has these other goals and aspirations. And I think it's important, especially when you step into entrepreneurship, because then you have the other levels of, the income, as a employee somewhere, you're going to get a paycheck for the most part. every, you know what I'm saying, every 2 weeks. Yes, the unthinkable could happen, pandemics can happen and things like that. But for the most part, whether you go to that job or not, whether you show up, whether you put in 100% today and 10% tomorrow, you're going to get the same amount of money. But when you're an entrepreneur, until you get going, until that mechanism is turns into a machine, that's not the case. And so I think it's a lot easier when you're an entrepreneur for that to happen, to fall into those modes where you do kind of keep pushing yourself down. And I think it's critically important that everybody who's listening today hear Vanessa when she says, be selfish, be freaking selfish, take that time and say, no, I'm not doing XYZ. I'm going to do this. And it doesn't have to be big, when it comes to that whole self-care aspect of it. And when you're building your business, again, same thing. No, I'm taking these 2 hours and I'm going to do this for me, for my business. And your thing is going to have to wait. It's hard to do. Lord knows it's hard for me to do, but it's necessary.
Yeah. And it's honestly, and for my pet peeve that I also try to tell people this as well. It's like when people feel like they have to explain what they're doing. It's like, just say no. That's it. Just say no. Like, it's not like, and the thing is that, let's say it's a close friend and you want to explain it. And because the thing is that people, like, they try to explain it because they feel like sorry about it. And it's like, assuming that friend is your friend, assuming that person actually supports you, right? They're not going to be like, oh, I can't believe you're prioritizing your business for me. The worst. Oh,
and if they do,
they got to go.
They're showing you who they are.
Yes.
They're showing you who they are. And it's like, okay, believe them. And is that what you want? Is that who you want in your life?
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, it's like entrepreneurs are actually more likely than the general population to have mental health problems. Like, it is. And when it comes down to even stress, anxiety, depression, all the things. And it's rooted in just the idea that, you're trying to, it's like a lot of people, I call it jogging in place, where they're sweating, they're working, their thighs are hurting, but then you zoom out and they haven't gone anywhere. They're on the treadmill. They haven't gone anywhere. They're still in the same spot that they were in. And what you need to ensure is that, yes, you can sweat, you can move, but you can also get some water at the same time. You don't have to be dehydrated. You can take a break. You can slow down your pace. You can ensure you're running the right pace that you need to run, right? That works for you. And then we were talking about examples of people, of like what people can do. So one of my clients, for example, for her, it was wintertime, Minneapolis, but she was like, you know what? When I walk outside for 10 minutes, even if it's cold, I feel better. So that's what she decided to do every single day, right? She still does that to this day. I have another client where she's a financial advisor, but she's also an artist as well too. And so for her, it was like getting into her art craft every single day, right? And then I have another client where for her, it's, spending time with her kids and having, a movie night every week, right? It doesn't have to be anything that's every day. It could be an everyday thing, an every week thing. It could be you need to get your nails done every month. It could be I need to have gossip time with the hair salon, every couple of weeks, whatever it may be. But it's like, find that thing I call non-negotiables. Find those non-negotiable that's something you need to have happen for you to feel good, right? And then do that, right? Actually make a commitment to do that and then do that for yourself so that you can ensure that you keep yourself together. And if you need to say no, be selfish. Say that no. Say that no. That's it. Say no. It's like, no, I can't make it happen. And you can feel bad. That's good. That means that you care. But
I love that. So I think that's a huge takeaway for everybody. Everybody write that down. Non-negotiable. As you're planning your business, as you're starting out, what is your non-negotiable? And it should be that way for yourself personally. It should also be that way for, your price point, your services or products that you're offering, right? You should, when you go to other businesses, they don't say, hey, what do you want to pay me? You walk into a doctor's office, they have a set fee. And it is what it is. And 9 times out of 10, most people go in there because they just want the service. They don't even really ask about the fee. They just know they want the service and they're just ready to pay, So non-negotiable. I love that. That might be, one of your key phrases, for this podcast, because that's wonderful. That's great.
Yeah. Love it. And the thing is that,
no, go ahead, please.
Oh, what I was going to say is that it's connected to the point where you mentioned about, it's like you're talking about the pricing and packaging and business model, right? And the thing is that also should be centered around your life, right? As you're talking about. And an example of this that I thought about as soon as we were speaking was that the financial coach that I mentioned, for example. So for her, she's on a mission to help 1 million, women become debt free. And so, because she became debt free like many years ago, and she's already been helping, like she's helped over 12 women already thus far, but she's on like a project to make it bigger. Now, on one hand, it's financial coaching. You can say, okay, so if you do a couple one-on-ones and you price it at this, then like it could work out. But for her, she was like, that's not the lifestyle I want. I don't want the lifestyle of one-on-ones, right? So how else can we shape it? So what we did was then I connected with her and we essentially just like structured a whole new like business model for her to then deliver the service that she needs for her clients at the same time with the lifestyle, right? That will make her and enable her to show up and to want to show up, right? Because if you're doing a business that you don't even, you're like, like you don't even want to show up. You're just like, I don't, oh my goodness. That's not going to be effective, right? You're not going to show up essentially. So ensuring that even from the beginning, when you're setting up your business, that it's something, it's a format, it's a method that actually works and connects with how it is that you want to live, how it is that, will fit like the strategy, the marketing strategy, the pricing and packaging, all of it needs to be centered and focused around how it is that you want to live your life, right? That vision that you have and working backwards. I call this
Right.
success audit. It's like the vision you have and working backwards.
And I think that's hugely important. There's a piece in there. There's a certain kind of notion, I think, which is really a misconception, that of what success looks like.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to business. Here in America, it's often painted as, just pure wealth, like ridiculous wealth, and the ability to do just anything and everything that you want to. And yes, that is a measure of success. Yes, everybody wants to be able to do the things they want to do. However, what one person wants to do and what they want to grow is different than another.
Yeah.
I've said it before, I've been in business for over 15 years. Can you guys go out, please? Thank you. I've been in business for nearly 15 years. When I started, I didn't have the kids, the family, any of that. And so, but even then, my vision at the time was I just want enough for me to do the things that I want to do. I want to be, to be able to be self-sufficient, and I want to be able to travel and splurge here and there and get, nails and, those things like that. But I've never been that person who's like, I need to have, a Louis Vuitton, every single day. And I need a closet full of, red bottles. Now, will I take those things? Yes, ma'am. But I don't feel like I need those things to be successful. But that's my measure of success. For me, my business, I've never been the one who wanted to grow a huge team and have all these people underneath me and be responsible for those people. To me, that's almost the opposite of the whole reason for becoming an entrepreneur, because it, for me, it ties me down. However, I salute those people who do go and do build those agencies and companies and have these teams, because it's commendable, because it is a huge responsibility, and you have to have a mechanism, a machine that's really working. But for those who are starting out, I just challenge you, think about what is success for you. What will it mean to have a successful business for you? Because that will help to keep you in a better mind space even as you're moving along. Because if you're constantly comparing yourself to the person who's building a huge agency, who's making 7-8 figures in their business, and then you're looking at yourself and you're beating yourself up because you're not doing the same. But then really at the core of it, what they have, because all you see is what they show you. You don't know what else they're missing out on. Like if you're comparing yourself to that person, that's not apples to apples if that's not the same life that you want. And so I think it's important to really, like you said, think about why you're doing this and what's important to you, and staying true to that every step of the way as you build your business out, from that business structure, from the pricing, from the hours that you're choosing to put into work. Because if your whole point is, I want more time freedom, I want to be with my family, I want this, that, and the other, I want to travel, and then you're doing the work, but you have none of
None of
that,
that.
you know, you just went back to the same thing that you left. But it's harder because you got to work harder for the paycheck because nobody's giving it to you every 2 weeks anymore, like, so I think that's really, really important. Um, I want you to let people know how can they work with you. You have such amazing ideas and philosophies. So if they're interested in working with you as a coach, or if I know you do a lot of speaking, how can they get in touch with you?
Yes, great question. The best way to reach me, social media platforms I'm on are Facebook and LinkedIn. So I regularly show up there. So you can send me a connection request or you can add me as a friend on Facebook. By all means, let's be friends. And essentially through there, I share a lot of content. If you already know that you're ready for support and you want to say, Vanessa, can we hop on the phone? Can I talk to you? Then by all means, let's connect. Let's get you unstuck. Let's get you a clear path forward on how to ensure that you are underwhelming or overwhelmed and going from busy to productive and making your business happen. So if you would like to schedule time, power.vzamy.com. So POWER with a dot, V, and then my last name, ZAMY.com. I think that probably be in the show notes somewhere. But yeah, but
Yes,
essentially
ma'am.
feel free to, and then you can also just reach out to my website, yourbusinesscatalyst.com, where you can find the link as well. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Vanessa, so much for taking the time to speak with me today. Thank you for being patient as the rest of my world as an entrepreneur just basically video bombed
Also,
our
I
interview
get
and
my
everything.
clients all the time.
I mean, it is what it is. Hello world, this is part of my life. You want to be a mompreneur and you got 3 under 10, this might be you too. That's all I got to say. So in any case, thank you so much for joining me. Everybody be sure that you subscribe so you can catch up with Vanessa on her outlets. You can keep up with what I'm doing here. And we're going to do our best to keep bringing you awesome content. Thanks again, Vanessa. Thank you, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Talk soon.
Bye.